Hey now, yeah, good morning. PSW staff, clients, friends joining us for a lovely Tuesday. It's going to be great today. It's going to be very elegant and romantic and fun in that order. Yesterday we looked at your film scoring assignment for Jordan Peele's film Get Out, and get that into me by today is fine, and then we're going to see your results. Remember, there's money involved in this on Friday, so that should be exciting. Not as exciting as this gentleman we're going to talk about. Again, we're going to feel a little inadequate, or at least I am, reading his biography and studying what he's done. Genius. I mean, he was like another Mozart. So yeah, we're just not working hard enough, or I'm not working. Something's not working. This guy wrote some wonderful music, and we're going to listen to it, talk about his life, and it'll just be a terrific class. So today we're going to be talking about the music of Camille Saint-Saëns. Already you know who we're talking about, right? Everyone's heard that piece. He didn't want you to hear that piece. In fact, he didn't want anyone to hear that piece. We're going to talk about the Carnival of the Animals a little bit later, and how he was very adamant about that not being published during his lifetime, which is weird because that's really what is one of his most famous pieces, and one of the most famous pieces of all time. So good thing sometimes we don't listen to artists. Artists don't know what's best for them sometimes. Just like Franz Kafka, the great writer, made his friend promise him to burn all of his works after he died. And after he died, his friend's like, I don't think I can do that. I think the world needs to see this. So good thing his friend followed the same directions. Otherwise, we wouldn't have Kafka. So Saint-Saëns, yeah, kind of. It's French, obviously. He's not from Inglewood. He's not from Korea. Yeah, he's born in Paris. Very Parisian-like upbringing. French composer, organist, another organist. We look at a lot of these composers, Dvorak, Janacek. A lot of these guys got organ training because the church was so important, and that was the gig. It was a weekly gig too. He was a conductor. In fact, there's very old footage of him conducting a piece, and a pianist, and yeah, of the Romantic era. Where's that timeline? Because right now, I'm sure we're all like, okay, great. When is that Romantic era again? So we know the classical period, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart. We know that. Brahms, that's classical. We've done classes on that. And then we get into Romanticism, right? 19th century. 19th century, it's opera. It's all about Rossini and Wagner, which we know about. They're doing opera. They're doing romantic music. Then we kind of get Tchaikovsky. So with Brahms and Tchaikovsky, we get Saint-Saëns. He's born 1835, lives a long life, dies in 1921, so sees a lot of music change. Dies at 86 years old, so really long life for back then. So he's going on at the kind of the end of the Romantic period. He's at the height of his fame in the 1870s and 80s, and then kind of retires around 1913, around that era, where he's hanging out with Proust a lot and traveling the world. He was an avid traveler, and reader and writer and archaeologist and scientist and botanist. Again, overachiever probably. I mean, he was a musical prodigy. He was a scholar of music history. And his students, he taught Fauré. We haven't talked about Fauré. Fauré's a beautiful composer, wrote some really wonderful music. Maybe we'll do a class on him. He taught him, and he also taught Ravel. And we did a class in Ravel. And Ravel, beautiful French music. It's like we talked about that question, how can you write music that looks and sounds like the water running through it? And you remember Ravel. So it's nice hanging out here, but let's go over to Paris. I mean, that's where he's born, and he's not born at the Eiffel Tower. I know I chose that because that's kind of an amazing landmark. So before he was 3 years old, he had perfect pitch. What's perfect pitch? Well, that's if you're just walking down the street and somebody plays a note and you say, oh, that's D, oh, that's G, that's A. Very few people have that. Patrick Story has that. Rex has that. Nicholas Pratt has that. We have a few people that have perfect pitch. You're born with that. You can't learn perfect pitch. You can learn relative pitch. Relative is if somebody gives you an A as a starting note, then they play any other note. And so from that A, in your mind, you're like, relatively, here's an A, and then they play an F sharp, and then they know after starting, which is still really hard. Took years for me to even begin to get that, so that's still really hard. So perfect pitch, starts playing, his great aunt taught him piano, but really as a young kid starts performing Beethoven and Bach, or at least Beethoven and Mozart. But he was a huge prodigy, and he gave performances for small audiences at the age of 5, so he's already, and by the age of 10, he made his official public debut. And at the age of 13, he was admitted to the Paris Conservatory, which is probably one of the best music schools in the world. People like Rossini and Franz Liszt, who we'll do something on Franz Liszt later, took notice of him and said, this guy is, Liszt, who was an amazing pianist, said that this guy is the best organist in the world. Liszt also introduces him to Bach. Bach is somebody that's getting fame, but not yet as famous as, even though, he had died a long time ago, not somebody who was as famous yet, but we'll see his influence in that. So by 1868, he premieres his first orchestral work with his second piano concerto, and starts doing concerts abroad, and starts writing symphonies, operas, concerti, sacred and choral music. So much music. And in 1908, he became the first composer, I didn't know this, to write a score for a film. He wrote the score for an 18-minute long film titled "The Assassination of the Duke of Guise," which of course is a classic, and we've all seen. So Saint-Saëns' dilemma as an artist, because all we want to create, but there's always dilemmas, was that he was at a time when Romanticism was kind of going out and kind of thought of as not as serious. Modernism was coming in, and he was pretty rooted in classical conventional music. He was born in 1835, so you can't really blame him, but he lives long enough to see the 20th century, and with 20th century you get a lack of tonality in some ways, and so he's beginning to worry that he might sound dated. He had a feud and wasn't friendly with Debussy. Debussy was an Impressionist composer, and he was the one we looked at where he changed that one note remember that one tritone that was the start of modern music, of modern 20th century music. Wrote beautiful music, Debussy, but Saint-Saëns was a little bit, I think he was a little bit more conservative. So Carnival of the Animals is really why, what he's best known for. And like I said, he did not want to. It first premiered in 1922, so right after he died. So he writes it on vacation. And the piece consists of 14 movements, and they're written for 2 pianos, xylophone, string, glass harmonica, flute, and clarinet. and it's a portrait of all the animals. And so he was on vacation. He was of course, taking a break from his third symphony. Just like real artists, when they're in their serious works, their vacation is to write, music that's just fun. And he thought that this was too fun, that this was not serious music, even though he did write it down. 1886, it's written on vacation in Austria, and 14 movements, and each movement depicts a different animal, with so much wit. It's so funny and so charming. Performances for this took place all privately, because he was just embarrassed. He didn't think he'd be taken seriously. Again, like we said, he was at the height of his classical fame around this era, and he said the only one you can do is the only one you can even perform is the Swan movement, which we're going to look at in a little bit, probably his most famous movement. So it's weird because, like we said, sometimes composers don't know when they have a hit in them. I mean, think if the Beatles thought a lot of those songs were silly and they're like, we won't do it. We won't. It's just too, it's good for artists to be vulnerable. I mean, he also wrote so much other brilliant music, so it's not like, I think if he hadn't written this, he still would have been in the classical repertoire for sure because he was so prolific. But we're just focusing on kind of the hits, and this is his big hit. It doesn't get much prettier than that. It's so gorgeous. I mentioned Bach earlier, and I don't just say like, yeah, they're influenced, offhand, because listen to the influence. Listen to Bach. Listen to this famous piece that was written. Sounds very similar, doesn't it? The piano's sounding. It sounds like water because, of course, he was looking at the swan when he wrote this. Even the chord progression is very similar to what Saint-Saëns is doing. Saint-Saëns is using that he's having two pianos, one do the arpeggios, one do the chords, and then the beautiful high cello in the high register of the cello playing such a simple melody. It doesn't get more, much simpler than that. I mean, if we just look at the score, they're just quarter notes. They're very, in the cello. It's just, why is that so beautiful to us? And it sounds like running water underneath, and also the beauty of just swans in general. I mean, not to get gushy, but, swans mate for life. And some say that if their partner dies, then the other could die of a broken heart. I mean, it's pretty romantic. So that's a little taste of Saint-Saëns. Brilliant composer, wonderful music in Carnival of the Animals. We listened to some other ones too throughout the class, but I thought we'd just focus on the hit, his biggest hit that he did not want performed ever. He just thought it wasn't serious. This was the time when snobbery was really at its height, especially in classical music. That's one thing about academics and academia and college in general. The snobbery is just terrible. It's something that I don't know why people think that they have the authority, and to be high-minded is to be the right mind. It's really just art, and sometimes entertainment is okay. Yeah, so something to think about. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about a big band leader that I've been meaning to get to, so I'm excited to share that with you. Okay, have a great rest of the day. And I've said it all. Okay, love you. Bye.